Supplementaries is a highly configurable Forge mod focused on adding valuable content which fills the gaps that vanilla has. Its features are tailored to be functional, aesthetically viable, and complementary to pre-existing content and provide many new ways to enhance your Vanilla Plus experience. So, let's begin. We'll start by taking a look at some of the world generation features. Waysigns are new structures that will randomly generate in the overworld. They can come with up to 2 signposts, each of which will point to the nearest villages. Additionally, they can also point to some other modded, man-made structures. Small patches of urns will now spawn when deep enough underground. When broken, these urns will drop an assortment of various loot, most commonly including ash, bones, or a few ores. However, they can rarely include very good loot items such as bombs, emeralds, or enchanted armor pieces. Loot quality is affected by fortune, so make sure to smash them with your fortune pickaxe. Flax can rarely spawn in its wild form along bodies of water in desert and arid biomes. The Red Merchant is a rare wandering trader-like merchant. Its spawning frequency is low, but increases with the passing of days, game difficulty, and milestones achieved. It sells an assortment of explosive-related items. Next, we'll look at the tools and items added by the mod. The Slingshot is a tool that can shoot blocks. Shot blocks will place themselves wherever they land if the position is suitable. It can be enchanted with Quick Charge, Multi-Shot, and Stasis. Stasis is a new enchantment just for the Slingshot and can be found in end cities. A Slingshot enchanted with Stasis will be able to shoot in a straight line without being affected by gravity, and will additionally gain a white block outline that will indicate where the projectile will land. Skeletons can now rarely spawn with quivers at higher difficulties. They will shoot random tipped arrows and can drop the item. You can add arrows to a quiver by clicking a stack onto one in your inventory, just like with the bundle. Another way to obtain it is through mansions or dungeon chests. Its main use is to quickly switch between arrows. To do so, use the item and it will open an in-game GUI. Players won't be slowed while using the item and can cycle through selected arrows with mouse movement, arrow keys, number keys, or the scroll wheel. Arrows and item arrows that you pick up will go into your quiver if it contains non-full stacks of the same kind. It can hold up to 7 stacks of different arrows. The altimeter visually shows current height. The texture changes with elevation and dimension. Right-clicking will show the Y level. By default, the texture scrolls 1 pixel up every 4 blocks. Sliced maps display the world as viewed from a certain Y level. Slice map Y level is decided whenever it's first created. It requires the player to stand on or have view on the target level, so to avoid X-ray. They have more reduced range than normal maps. The flute can be played to summon nearby non-sitting owned pets to the player. It can be bound to a specific pet or horse by clicking it on the animal in question. When used, it will play a random song from a selected list. Wrenches are a handy tool which can be used to rotate any kind of rotatable block. Shift right click to reverse the rotation direction. The rotation axis will be the one of the face you click. Additionally, wrenches double as a fast melee weapon which deals the same amount of damage as a wooden sword but is much faster. Soap can be crafted with many dyed items to revert them to their default state. They can be used on copper-like blocks to clean away any waxing and oxidization in one use. They can also wash away blackboards, antique globes, and maps, sticky pistons, and tipped spikes. The bomb is a consumable projectile that will explode wherever it lands. Such explosion will only deal damage to mobs without destroying any blocks, with the exception of blocks that can be removed by water like tall grass. Blue bombs are a more powerful version of bombs. They can be found by exploring, usually in chests. When exploding, they can ignite nearby creepers. A blue bomb explosion will deal significant area damage to entities, will set them on fire, and will afflict them with a weakness debuff. Blue bombs do not explode on impact, instead they will flash once when they hit something, then they will detonate. The rope arrow, once shot, will try to deploy a rope coil wherever it lands. It can be crafted to hold up to 24 ropes, and shot rope arrows will retain all the ropes that they didn't place. The bubble blower is a fun novelty item which you can use to blow soap bubbles. It can be recharged by crafting it with soap. If enchanted with stasis, it gains an actual useful functionality which allows it to place fancy soap blocks in midair wherever you aim. Antique ink is a rare item which is often found in urns, fishing loot, or sold by master cartographers. It can be used on any sign to change its font to a fancy antiquable font. It can be crafted with a map to turn it into an antique map, giving it a treasure-like map look. It can be crafted with a globe to set a sepia globe. Keys are used to lock safes, netherite doors, netherite trapdoors, and lock blocks. To lock a block, first rename the key to your desired password, and then click on the unbounded block. To clear the ownership, simply shift-click with the correct key on the locked block. To open a locked block, you don't need to have the correct key in hand, it just needs to be in your inventory or curio slot. Candy is a simple food item that is fast to eat and will fill up half a hunger bar. Pancakes are similar to cakes, they can only be eaten when placed. They can be placed in a pile of up to 8. Honey can be poured on them. Pancakes with honey, chocolate or syrup will give a short speed effect when eaten. You can also insert a pancake in a jukebox for some sick tunes. Flax seeds can be found rarely in chests, sold by the wandering trader or obtained through wild flax. Flax is a plant that grows 2 blocks tall and can be farmed to craft many newly added blocks such as ropes, sacks, fodder and doormats. Now we'll look at some of the tweaks that the mod makes to the game. Vanilla and modded lanterns can now be placed on walls. Wall lanterns are animated and will swing if they are hit by an entity. Candles can be placed on top of mob heads. Mob heads can be stacked on top of each other. Wearing a mob head will give you the spectator effect that you usually get when spectating that mob. You can now place some new markers on maps. To do so, you just click with a map on one of the required blocks. The supported blocks are beacon, beds, signposts, nether portal, bell, campfires, conduit, lodestone, respawn anchors, end portal and flags. Some of these blocks will show the block name if they hold text or are renamed, just like vanilla banners. Maps will now show biome and block colors for all blocks. Cartographers can now sell adventurer maps on their second trade. Adventurer maps are just like mansion maps but can lead you to many different vanilla structures. The catch is that you won't know which one until you open the map. Adventurer maps make use of the new map icon system and have a custom icon for each structure. The list of possible structures they can lead to are jungle temples, desert pyramids, villages, shipwrecks, mine shafts, ruin portals, witch huts, igloos, pillager outposts, ocean ruins, end cities, and bastions. Gunpowder trails can be placed on the ground. They can be lit up via fire arrows, fire charges, fire, lava, magma blocks, and other fire sources. Once lit up, the trail will quickly start to consume itself, and it will propagate to the next one. Lit trails can ignite TNT, set flammable blocks on fire, or light up blocks that can be lit up like campfires or candles. Feeding a stack of rotten flesh to an owned skeleton horse will slowly convert it into a zombie horse. Additionally, zombie horses can breed underwater, just like skeleton ones. Enchanted and normal books can be placed and thus have a block form. By default, normal books can be piled horizontally and will have a random color assigned to them. Enchanted books will be piled up vertically. Placed books can give enchanting power to enchanting tables. The power given depends on the number and type of books used. Banners can be placed on the bottom of a block. They can also be attached directly to horizontally placed ropes. Skeletons can now rarely spawn equipped with a quiver. Skeletons with quivers are able to shoot a variety of random tipped arrows. When killed, they have a high chance to drop their quiver complete with its content. One can now interact with a set of chains or ropes attached to the bottom of a bell. Doing so will ring the bell itself. Bells will also visually connect to those ropes and chains. The Enderman head will open its mouth and emit a redstone signal when being stared at. Signal strength depends on how long you look at it, and it drops just like other heads now. It can't be stacked or have candles on it. You can now throw bricks in Minecraft. Thrown bricks can break glass blocks in a random pattern. Sticks can be placed on the ground with up to 3 in the same block. Blaze rods can also be placed down with similar properties. Blaze rods will damage entities standing on them, setting them on fire. You can now use a hoe on a block of gravel to rake it in the direction you are facing. Cakes can now be stacked on top of each other, creating a double cake. Additionally, cakes can now be eaten from all sides. And here are a few more minor miscellaneous tweaks. There is a new bomb-themed painting. Shulker shells can be worn in the head slot. Flower pots can now be hung from the ceiling. Cartography tables have animated slot icons. You can now add item lore by crafting a name tag with any item. Vines can be placed below campfires. Hitting a black cat will get you unluck. Unluck will also make lightning more likely to hit you. Crossbows loaded with tipped arrows will have their arrow tip texture change color accordingly. The brewing stand potion texture will now change color depending on the contained potion in each slot. Axes can be used in dispensers to strip or scrape blocks. Parrots can dance on your shoulders, and dispensers can now fire ender pearls. Now we'll look at some of the functional blocks added by the mod. The globe is a rare item found in shipwrecks or sold by the wandering trader. It will display a randomly generated blocky world that is unique to your current seed. Once interacted with, it will spin and display the current world coordinates. Every spin will rotate it by one face. Candle holders can be placed on walls, floors, and ceilings. They can be stacked up to 4 to create candelabras and chandeliers. They give off a bit more light than normal candles. Like sconces, they can be lit up and extinguished in many ways, like with fire charges, flaming arrows, gunpowder, or shovels, to name a few. They come in 17 colors. The pedestal can have one item placed on top of them. Certain items like swords, tools and tridents and globes will have special visual properties when displayed on a pedestal. If an end crystal is placed on a pedestal, the block will give off an enchanting power equal to 3 bookshelves. The flag is essentially a horizontal banner. It will swing in the wind and have a fancy animation option that can be enabled in the configs or viewed with fabulous graphics. It can be crafted from existing banners and come in all colors. It can be lowered and raised if placed on top of a pole made with stackable sticks. The present is a container block which can hold one item stack. When interacting with its GUI, you can choose a player to which it will be addressed to, as well as a small description. Once packed, only you and the recipient will be able to open it and access its content. It comes in 17 colors. When a block is burned by fire, it will change to create one of ash, depending on its flammability. Ash layers are affected by gravity and can pile up. They can be harvested with a shovel and is used to craft soap. They can drop from burning mobs. They are also found in basalt deltas. Rain will slowly wash away ash layers. The soap block makes entities that walk on it slip. It can be placed next to a wet sponge which is in contact with a bellow to make the setup emit bubble particles. The sugar cube dissolves into particles when it touches water. The notice board can hold and display either a written book, a map or a banner pattern. When it's displaying a written book, it will only show one page at a time. Once given a redstone pulse, it will turn the currently displayed page onto the next one. It can be waxed to prevent interactions. Fodder is a layered block that serves as a way to automatically feed animals. Many animals will try to eat a layer out of the block when they are hungry. When eaten, it will make baby animals age faster and will set adults in love. Clicking with a hoe will remove and destroy one layer. Bamboo spikes are spikes that will slow and damage all the mobs that walk in them. They can be infused with lingering potions. To do so, either craft them, click on them, or pour the potion using a faucet. The hat stand is like an armor stand, but just the head. You can shift click with an empty hand to wobble it. The planter can support any plant or crop without the need of water, which is useful for nether farms. It can also prevent the crop from being trampled. Hanging signs can hold and display either text, an item, or a banner pattern. It can be attached to the bottom of a block or to the side and will visually connect to fences and walls. It will visually swing when hit by entities. The blackboard can be written on to create interesting patterns in black and white. It can also be directly edited without the GUI by holding a die item. It will keep its drawing when broken. Blackboards can be duplicated just like banners. It can be cleared by using a wet sponge or soap. It can be waxed to prevent interactions. It can accept glow ink. Framed blocks come in 3 shapes: braces, cross braces, and frames. Each of them can visually hold any solid block inside. This allows the ability to make every block into a framed one. To do so, simply click on it with said block. An option to frame an already placed block when clicking on it with this item is available in the configs. Using an axe on a framed block will break the frame, but not the block contained inside. The daub is a new medieval themed decorative block that goes hand in hand with framed blocks. When daub is placed inside a framed block, it will convert into the respective wattle and daub. The safe acts as a sort of upgraded shulker box that is fire resistant. Safes can be locked with a key. Once this is done, their content will only be available to players that have the correct key in their inventory. To unlock and clear the ownership of a safe, simply shift click on it with its key or a tripwire hook if simple safes are enabled. Netherite doors and trapdoors act just like safes. They can be locked with keys. Once this is done, only a key owner can interact with them. Gold doors and trapdoors, when powered by redstone, will disable any interaction with any player. This means that a powered door cannot be opened or closed regardless of its state. Iron gates are a decorative item that act as an upgraded fence gate. It can visually connect with other gates that are placed on top of them. Ropes can be placed against a ceiling, on a fence, wall, or next to an already placed rope. Just like scaffolding, they can only go that far out horizontally from their closest support until they are no longer supported. Vertical ropes have no hitbox and can be climbed on. Horizontal ropes do have a hitbox and can be walked on, albeit at a slower pace. Your screen will also wobble as you try to balance on them. They can be broken by a projectile. Doing so or breaking them will also break connected ropes which are being supported. Shearing a rope will remove its bottom connection. Placing a rope against an existing vertical one will result in the rope getting extended downwards, pushing all blocks that are attached to the bottommost rope. The opposite is also true and can be achieved by shift-clicking a rope with an empty hand. This will pull up the last attached block, useful for wells. Ropes will dynamically wrap themselves against many fence-like blocks such as walls, beams, and posts. This includes many mods that also add horizontal-facing ones like quartz posts. The flint block is a decorative and storage block that can provide a user with extra flints. When pushed by a piston, it can scrape against any full-faced iron block to produce sparks. If a flammable block is nearby, it will catch fire. The feather block, when fallen on or stepped upon, will emit feather particles and will let the player slowly fall into it, negating all fall damage. The doormat can hold and display 3 lines of texts, and cats will occasionally sit on it. The sconce, candelabras, and candle holders are decorative items that are meant to provide an alternative to torches. They can be lit with flint and steel, fire charges, fire arrows, or placeable gunpowder. They can be unlit by waterlogging or by using a water splash potion. Up to 2 signposts can be placed on any fence or placed stick. Their orientation depends on the way the player faces when placing them. Their direction is always set, but it can be reversed by shift-clicking one. You can click on one with a compass to make it point toward the pointer position. Like all signs, they support dyes and inks. The flower box is like a flower pot but can hold up to 3 plants. It can also hold double plants. It can be placed in the middle of a block or to the side in all directions. The statue can hold an item in its hand. Some items have special visuals like candles, tools, and swords. When powered with redstone, it will wave. The sack acts as an early game shulker box with 9 slots. Sacks are heavy, and when carrying more than 2, the player will have the over-encumbered effect applied. It's a gravity block and will deal damage when it falls on an entity. Damage depends on sack content. It can be interacted with similar to a bundle. Goblets can hold and display any liquid. Valid liquids include normal fluids, potions, honey, milk, and so many others with support for many mods too. If you see something in a bottle or bowl, it can likely be accepted as a fluid. Any displayed fluid, if drinkable, can be drunk directly and instantly by clicking on it. Cages can be used to capture small animals and mobs. To do so, right or left click a mob with a cage item, right click with a full cage to release the mob. To place the block down, you will need to shift right click. Captured mobs will not age nor be interactable, and some will have some custom animations. Chickens can still lay eggs while captured. Jars can store up to 12 cookie-like items. Stored cookies can be directly eaten by interacting with it. Just like cages, it can store and capture small mobs. Jars can store up to 12 bottles of fluids. This follows the same logic that goblets use. New building blocks include black stone tiles and lantern, stone tiles and lantern, deep slate lantern, end stone lantern, checker box, and ash bricks. Now we'll take a look at redstone blocks added by the mod. The wind vane will visually swing depending on the current weather in your Minecraft world. It will output a redstone signal, the strength of which depends on the current weather, so 1 power when raining and 2 when thundering. The cog block acts as a form of upgraded redstone in solid block form. You just power 1 and it will power its adjacent cogs, up to 14 blocks away, just like with redstone dust. The real use for this is to be able to make compact vertical redstone signaling. Crystal displays, when powered, display a number or a symbol depending on what the received signal strength is. They have emissive textures. The relayer is an observer-like block whose purpose is to copy whatever signal it has in front to its back. It also works with indirect power when it faces a redstone wire. It's useful to reliably transmit analog power without dispersion. A signal takes 1 game tick to travel through a relayer. It's useful to power an array of crystal displays or other similar blocks, as multiple relayer chains can be stacked next to each other without interfering. The spring launcher, when activated, extends like a piston and will propel any entities that lie on top of it in the direction it's moving, twice as far as the vanilla piston slime block setup. It cannot push blocks like a normal piston, only entities. It allows entities that stand on an extended one to jump slightly higher. The speaker block can send a message in chat to all players in a certain radius when activated by redstone. Alternatively, it also provides a narrator mode which will send the message via the game narrator instead. Its radius or volume and message can be edited via its GUI. The turntable can change the orientation of the block that it's facing. It can rotate many special blocks too, like stairs on their horizontal axis. Once powered, it will initiate a rotation action which will take time depending on the signal strength it's receiving. The rotation action will continue regardless if the block is powered or not, and it's indicated by a red light on the block itself. If given a short pulse, it will only perform 1 rotation. The rotation frequency or speed for entities depends on the redstone power that the block has. Toggling the block by right-clicking will reverse the rotation direction. It can be placed facing all directions. It also constantly rotates entities that are standing on it. That only works when facing upwards. The clock block visually displays the current in-game time. The hour hand indicates the current in-game hour, while the minute hand ticks every IRL second. It provides a way to have accurate timekeeping in-game. Like all clocks, it does not work in the nether. Clicking on it will display the current time as a status message. The dispenser minecart is simply a minecart with a dispenser in it. Bellows, when powered, will push air in front of it with frequency that is proportional to its redstone power. When pushing air, it will push entities that are in front of it away, up to 5 blocks distance. It speeds up furnace-like blocks that are right next to it. It refreshes fire blocks in front of it. Fire blocks that are up to 2 blocks in distance will be kept alive indefinitely. It can be placed facing any direction. When stepped on, if not powered, it will compress. It can speed up copper aging if placed right next to one. If placed in front of a wet sponge that is in contact with a soap block, they are now able to blow bubbles. The redstone illuminator gives off a light output that is inversely proportional to its current redstone power. This means it's on by default. The crank provides a variable redstone signal that depends on its turn ratio. It's basically an analog lever. It can be turned clockwise or counterclockwise by shift right clicking. The faucet is an extremely powerful multi-purpose block. It can be activated by right clicking its handle. It can extract items from the inventory below and spill them right below its nozzle with a 1-second interval. If placed next to a fluid containing block, it will start dripping fluid particles and show a visual fluid tray right below it if it's active. Once it's connected to a fluid containing block behind it, it can pour those fluids in any possible fluid container block below it. It can also interact with blocks such as concrete powder, dirt, and sugar blocks. It can dump fluids in sponges, effectively voiding them. The same can already be done with lava cauldrons, making them ideal trash can solution. The hourglass can be filled with any kind of sand, dust or powder, or even slime and honey. Once filled, the dust will start slowly falling downward with a time that depends on the material used. It can give a comparator output that depends on the remaining time, useful for timing mechanisms. It can be reset by either rotating twice with a turntable or by shift clicking. The lock block can be locked with a key similar to safes and netherite doors. Once it interacts with a player that holds the correct key, it will emit a redstone pulse. The sconce lever is a mix between a sconce and a lever. If unlit, it will have its properties reversed. That will do it for the Supplementaries mod. It's available to download in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.